good morning. True Blue Tar here from Thailand. I hope you're doing well. Francis, welcome back to my stream. And here we have another day in Thailand. Here after I was watching the United Kingdom, etc., the football game, Mr. City Southampton, and Francis, lovely sunny day. And whenever that happens over there, it always seems to be rainy over here. And yesterday we had a bit of a storm. To a point, there was a tree over there, a massive one, was actually just been ripped down completely. There was a couple of bushes as well, for instance, really bad. I spent an hour and a half, etc., because with all the mangoes, we had the mango trees, etc., for instance, getting rid of all the leaves. And now the wind and rain is actually coming up, and the entire square here, for instance, in my little Thai area, was completely free of leaves. And now, because of the rain, for instance, and the storm, it's all back with leaves, and there's mangoes everywhere. So yeah, I thought I could hear them banging down, boom, boom, boom. And it started, and the rain started when, just as I was watching the Man City ladies beat Palace, and then just before the City fans. Now, you say, what, that's no problem? In your country, maybe not a problem. In this country, problem. And the reason why I've got, first of all, I've got my partner, for instance, who's a little bit, what can I say, for instance, doesn't like thunderstorms. So, of course, or any kind of lightning or anything like that, and wants the entire electricity just turned off completely. And so, for instance, until it goes away. Well, actually hides under a duvet. So, but the fact is, so for instance, it drives me absolutely bananas. I go out and have a look at it because it's biblical sometimes. And but she cries under the duvet and moans and complains and looks and calls me a crazy man because I like thunderstorms. Anyway, so to go, anyway, so but we also have these transformer boxes, huge ones outside, and they're they're massive, and they're stood on these things. There's not many of them. They are getting rid of them. One of those blew yesterday. You could hear it, and it was a good half a kilometre away, for instance, and we heard this. So of course all the lights went beep and flicked and went off, and everything went off and then came back within 1 second. So of course, so I had to turn the TV off as I was watching the ladies. But thankfully it was half time, so I managed to slowly turn it back on. But we had the thunderstorm all night. Anyway, so that's enough of Thailand. So I'm glad. I hope you had a very nice sunny weather because. We've gone from 30 degrees a couple of days ago where it was really hot, I must say, for instance. I don't normally complain about the heat. I don't complain. I just had 2 showers on Friday, for instance, and then only to find out that, for instance, last night I was waking up freezing cold and wearing a t-shirt, for instance. Yeah, so go figure. So let's move on. So football. Again, it's a bit cloudy today, maybe a bit of rain. So we had a frustrating, to say the least, game yesterday, didn't we? Against Southampton. And hey, listen, you've got to hold it up, hold your hands up, and say, listen, this is football. One of the reasons why we love football is because there's not a given. There's no such thing as a given. There's no such thing as a given game. And you never know when somebody's going to, you probably got all stats. You got people, for instance, doing this and that and this. And everybody says Man City's going to win and do this today. For instance, the easiest of our running games. We'll get 3 points, no worries, and we'll move on. But, for instance, again, this is football. And that's the reason why we love football. Because, quite honestly, for instance, you can't take any game for granted. So, for instance, we expected to lose at home against Aston Villa. But we didn't. We won. For instance, in the last minute, they don't care, but we won. So, for instance, and so there you go. For instance, so it just makes things interesting for the next couple of games. So, for instance, and what we need to do is get qualified for top 5. Go back to this again. 1 minute going second next time. Now we've got to qualify for top 5. But we're still in third position. Aston Villa did win their game 1-0 last night. For instance, credit to them. They needed to do just to keep back into contention. So they're back in contention. But they've still got to play. They've still got some tough games they have to play as well. So let's go. But we've got a week off because we're playing the FA Cup. And then we've got Bournemouth, Kevin's last game. And then our way to Fulham. So depending on how the game goes against for instance, Newcastle and Chelsea. And if that's a draw, which I'm hoping it is, and it could well be, that, for instance, it can, we could still be end up third. And, for instance, even if Forest wins, I think I'm just going to look at the table in a minute. But at the end of the day, for instance, it's not the worst thing in the world. We didn't lose, for instance, and we did get a point. They're on 65. the second, depending on what Liverpool did at Arsenal, for instance, we'll see what about second place. Qualifying for the Champions League is the most important thing. Frustrating. I've got to give credit to Southampton. Well, they had some. People said they had nothing to play for. Well, yeah, they did. They didn't win. For instance, they would have been 11 points equal to a Derby, for instance, and of the worst. And the last thing what you do is to have that, around your neck, etc. You can go down, but the last thing you want to do is go down with the lowest points. And they've been hopeless and terrible all season. And it decided that, for instance, the Man City game, that what they're going to do is backle the little hearts out and put 11 men behind the back of the ball, and exactly that's what they did. I think they had one chance at City, for instance, when it went and Edison had to do that one save, but it was ruled offside anyway, regardless. But other than that, for instance, and they slowed the game down. I can see Ruben Diaz getting upset and angry, for instance, about their play and the goalkeeper, for instance, just forget his name for a second, but his delaying tactics. But again, it's just we've got to rise above that. We've had this for years. A decade, shall I say, of teams playing a low block against us, and we've got to find a way. And it's simple as that. And for instance, we've got to blame ourselves. Do I blame Pep's team selection? Yes, because I thought he was. I was a little bit. What? So, for instance, and for instance, it took so long to break it. For instance, bringing Phil Foden back was all very nice and sweet and lovely. Was the goal from getting back into form, but unfortunately, for instance, we need the win. You can bring Foden on and put Mamouche on first. And when Mamouche came on, etc., he drove into the box and also hit the crossbar. And then he only had a few minutes. God knows what he would have done previously. For instance, he was probably a lot more sharper. Could Nico Gonzalez come on and made the difference better? Yes, I do believe. Would Nico O'Reilly made it better? Than Rico Lewis was clearly, when you see, for instance, was getting involved in tackles and skirmishes and the ball, and McAtee, for instance, also wasn't playing well. Pep should have sorted this out a lot sooner than what he did, and then changed it to. I know we're playing Southampton. I know it's over, but the fact is, I thought he would play McAtee, but I didn't. I just didn't expect. For instance, I thought he would change it. Sometimes you got to be more proactive, Pep. Okay, let's go. Let's go into the lineups. Okay, so for instance, we started with Edison in goal, Rico Lewis, Nico O'Reilly came on the 76, Josco Guardiola, Ruben Diaz, Malacanti, Josco Guardiola again, a saint as well. Ruben Diaz pass across the centre in the second half, etc. Josco Guardiola helped him out. Also, a great performance. Mikel Akanji to Kevin De Bruyne, Matteo Kovacic, Omar Mouche came on for that. Me personally, I would have taken off Bernardo Silva maybe. I don't know. Phil Foden, Savinho 76 minute, McAtee, Doku 45 minute, Erling Haaland. And then when on the bench we had Stefan Ortega, Savinho, Jack Grealish, German Doku, Omar Mouche, Matheus Nunes, Nico Gonzalez, Ilkay Gundogan, and Nico O'Reilly. So so that was the team. The stats, okay. The stats have always going to look good. 72% possession overall, 28 for them. They had 0 shots off target and outside the box, and 0 shots on target, on and off target. City had 9 outside the box, 5 on the inside, 15 corners. God, we did better than corners. Mamouche, why didn't Mamouche take the corners? Fouls 9-8, 2 yellow cards for them. They should have had more. 2 offsides, 1. That's it. Right. So, but the thing is, regardless of how we feel, like for instance, about it. For instance, they did what they needed to do, which is get to stop Man City from scoring, to which they did. Man City's flow, I thought it was slow. It was very predictable. For instance, I've got this an Australian network I was listening to yesterday, and they were criticising Man City's slow play. And okay, so we need to be more fast. It was good that we brought on Doku in the second half because it wasn't clearly the McAtee idea was not working. Rico Lewis idea wasn't working. But I thought he should have brought on Mamouche at the same time. Yeah, so for instance, yeah. But for instance, I thought in the first half, the shots we had, I think Kevin De Bruyne had one on the first half, which a free kick. I think they went down too quickly to get their free kicks, but again, and again, it's them. For instance, yeah, so we just didn't penetrate their goal too much. Aaron Ramsey, that's his name, didn't have too much to do. Okay, we did get the ball, for instance, he did play at, and looking forward to next season, and this 8-second rule. And if you don't know anything about it, it's an 8-second rule that, for instance, if the goalkeeper doesn't release the ball in 8 seconds, it goes out to a corner. So let's see how that works out next season. But for instance, yeah. So it was annoying, really, once it goes, and Ruben Diaz has really called them out. The manager, for instance, is Southampton manager, to sit back, but for instance, he is right, Ruben Diaz. But the fact is, they don't have to suit Manchester City's play. It was a Man City to break them down, and that's something we didn't do. So I can I can understand Ruben Diaz's frustration, the football team's frustration, but offense is up to City to break these teams down, and that's something we did not do. We just did not do. We didn't break them down enough. I thought Jamie Locker when he came in, he tried, but he had two guys against him. But again, he ran into a brick wall. Sometimes he lost the ball. For instance, he got a few crosses left. Ireland looked rusty in his way. But yeah, so for instance, yeah. So overall, it was disappointing, really. For instance, by City, for instance, and the balls came across. They were even by Kevin De Bruyne standards. They were going over. They're going past the players. Nothing really. Nothing. Nothing really penetrating. We didn't penetrate the goal too much, So, for instance, we've only got ourselves to blame. Player ratings. Okay, so for instance, have a quick look at a few player ratings while we're here. Player ratings. Edison's give him a 7. For instance, probably the easiest game he's going to get. Rico Lewis, 6. I thought he was a lot worse than a 6. Nice to see him back out starting lineup. It's not featured much. What's it called? Yeah, but I thought he was quite poor. Ruben Diaz 6.5 again. For instance, I'd give him that 6.5. I don't think he did. He stopped any Southampton's attacked, but he did leave Michael Kanji short on a pass, which could have led to a goal. Kanji 6.5. Some of his shooting, okay, he's got to have shots. Again, for instance, still looks rusty in his attacking. Was just go Guardiola 7. I'll give him a 7.5 for something like that. Involved in one of the biggest chances of the game with his volley that flashed across the penalty area, hit the back, had his back post helped to create an overload in the penalty area of any crossbar. Matteo Kovacic, man of the match, 8. So, but he was taken off in 86. Really good in the transition from defence to attack and bridge the gaps. So effective. It was effective on the ball and drove forward through the spaces in the midfield. I thought he played well. I thought he was the better player in the first half. Like to see more in the second half, etc. But again, it was cried out in midfield. Bernardo Silva 7. I don't give him a 7. He rotated the ball through the penalty area, but he didn't do as much. I needed more. Play from the right hand side. Phil Foden a 7. I certainly wouldn't give him Phil Foden a 7. Probably a 6. Didn't think he did much. We had that one chance where he went across the goal in the second half. McAtee 6. I still really struggled to make any difference. Yeah, absolutely. I would give him a 5 for that. Erling Haaland for just lacked touches. He lacked his match sharpness. Again, he can be fit, but there's a massive difference between fit and sharpness. Jeremy Doku was 7. Actually, Danny missing, but was missing to the game. Opened up a few more chances. But he should have started with him at least. Savina 6.5. Had a limited impact. Yeah, Mamouche struck the bar 7.5. Struck the bar at stoppage time. He should have played from the beginning. So yeah. For instance, again, what does that do to the table or the fixtures? For instance, what does it fit for the fixture list? So again, for instance, Newcastle will play against Chelsea. We're still 65 points. It's not the worst thing, but I've seen City fans go off the deep end right now, for instance, and that is the difference. You know, lose one game or draw one game and expect to win game, and let's call it pep out, this out. You know, we've got a Wembley final to prepare. It's not the worst point we've lost. 2 points we've dropped. We're still in pole position to finish in the top 5, which is our Champions League, which is need. But it's just been disheartening. I was also in the wrong because I said it 4-0, but I also said yesterday, for instance, about Wolves, we didn't play well. And the signs at the Wolves win, and we needed Kevin De Bruyne to get off the line. That, for instance, that should have been in the key because again our play was laborious and quite going back to what it was. That's the reason why I thought we had Nick O'Reilly or something like that and Doku and things like that to liven up and be quick in the place. You know, you look at Man City's games previously, we always think quick. But today we think we pass. Okay, but again, so you get what you deserve. You know, in next week in the cup final, it's going to be a lot different. For instance, with Palace, and they're going to be a lot more. They're going to be on the front foot. So Man City's defenders have got to come up. Just talk about Palace. Man City ladies won 5-2 against Palace yesterday. Congratulations to them. Palace were also relegated. They were 2-0 Palace, and then Man City came back to win 5-2. Good luck. And Hustagawa got player of the season, but he sure got golden boot. So well done, buddy. Guys, go love you and leave you. True blue tie from Thailand. Neighbours are waking up, as you can hear, probably. Just got right now. I forced that one. Only a small lady. Anyway, guys, lovely and leave you. True blue tie from Thailand. Talk to you tomorrow. Keep the faith. Charlie Tango Whiskey Dancer.